It's Monday. Welcome to Museum Moments. I know last week I promised a history museum, but I changed my mind. This week we have the California State Railroad Museum, and here's where the history does come in. California's history depends on two things: gold and trains. And today we're going to be focusing on the trains. The Train Museum in Sacramento, California follows the history of the Transcontinental Railroad from its beginning stages as a dream of the man Theodore Judah, to its financial backing by four California businessmen, to the Golden Spike joining the East and the West at last. The completion of the Transcontinental Railroad was kind of a big deal. It's the largest leap in travel technology ever. Prior to the railroad's completion in 1869, it took 6 to 7 months to travel to California, most commonly by boat around the southern tip of South America. After the railroad, it took 6 to 7 days. The museum is quite clever in the way they tell the story of the railroad. Yes, they utilized the typical museum display case, but they also used life-size displays such as this depiction of Chinese laborers working on building the railroad. From the use of these life-size models, we can kind of get a picture or an idea of life on the rails. We can catch a glimpse of the people who rode the railroad, and we can put ourselves in the shoes of those who spent their lives working on the railroad, from the cook to the conductor. Besides the life-size models and the real trains that we can walk through for ourselves, the Train Museum has a lot of other really cool exhibits, such as the toy train exhibit, which is extensive, and the cool exhibit on trains in the media and in movies. It's actually surprising how many movies have trains that I never even really thought about it before. When the railroad was built, it started on both ends of the country and met in Promontory, Utah, at which point the final railroad tie that was driven into the ground was a golden spike. This golden spike is now on display at Stanford University. But when this spike was forged, there was also a second one that was forged as a spare. This became known as the lost spike because no one knew what had happened to it. Well, the spike was found in 2005, locked in a bank vault. The descendants of the man who had made the spike now technically owned this big hunk of gold, so they decided to do what most people would. They sold it on eBay. The winning bid came from a Sacramento area train aficionado and museum benefactor, and he went ahead and donated the lost spike to this museum where it can now be seen. This museum, like many museums, is an exceptional storyteller. As we go through this museum, we're told a story, not just the story of the trains, but more importantly, we're told the story of the people. From the Orient Express to the Southern Pacific, from Thomas the Tank to the little engine that could, there's always been something magical about trains. So whether it's this one or one near you, go find the Train Museum. Check it out. They're really cool.